Dufferin-Caledon.
This forum is organized by the Dufferin Board of Trade with support from the Brampton Real Estate Board and Rogers TV, Dufferin-Caledon. We will begin tonight by sharing this land acknowledgement statement. We would like to begin by respectfully acknowledging that Dufferin County resides within the traditional territory and ancestral lands of the Tyantati, Atawandaron, Haudenosaunee, and Anishinaabe peoples. We acknowledge that various municipalities within the County of Dufferin reside within the treaty lands named under the Haldimand Deed of 1784 and two of the Williams Treaties of 1818, Treaty 18 and the Nottawasaga Purchase, and Treaty 19, the Adjetons Treaty. These traditional territories upon which we live and learn are steeped in rich Indigenous history and traditions. It is with this statement that we declare to honor and respect the past and present connection of Indigenous peoples with this land, its waterways, and resources. The Dufferin Board of Trade is a grassroots, nonprofit, nonpartisan organization with a passion for helping local business thrive. One of the ways DBOT does this is by being the voice of business in Dufferin and advocating on behalf of business needs. Tonight's event allows the public to meet the candidates and hear their views on important issues impacting life and work in Dufferin County. We'll be asking questions tonight reflective of a wide range of issues and concerns within our community, and in particular those issues that impact local business. Candidates were not informed of the questions prior to the event. Tonight's forum will begin with each candidate having a 3-minute introduction. We will then move on to the question period where candidates will have 2 minutes to respond to each question. Our candidates can view the countdown timer on the screen in front of the stage. The timer will begin after the moderator has asked the question. As the forum comes to a close, each candidate will have 2 minutes to give a closing statement. Candidates drew numbers a few minutes ago to determine tonight's speaking order. We will begin with candidate 1 and move down the line. For the second question, we will begin with candidate 2 and once again move down the line until each candidate has responded. We will repeat this process throughout the evening. I will remind candidates that control of the floor rests with the moderator, and I ask for your respect and cooperation in that regard. I will now introduce our first candidate to give their opening remarks, Jeff Patterson.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Good evening. My name is Jeff Patterson. I'm a candidate for Mayor of Orangeville. I want to work for you. I am not new to Orangeville. I was born and raised here. And after my upbringing with a very conservative, service-minded family, I moved on to university in London, Ontario, and later in Toronto. I became a certified professional accountant and have been one for about 40 years. My parents taught me to serve the community, and they led by example. Both my parents were very involved in the community, and I was inspired by my father's 26 years in municipal government right here in Orangeville. As I moved through my business career, I've had the opportunity to work for various types of organizations at very senior levels of management, and through that have gained a great deal of experience, which I am now positioned to apply to the position of Mayor of Orangeville. I come with certainly an accountant's point of view on things, but also very much a business point of view. I have been a businessman and continue to do so. I have a business here in Orangeville. It's in retail, and I'm happy to say that we now have had 4 generations of Pattersons in retail in the Orangeville market. My platform is very straightforward. I want to hold the line on taxes and have set out a 4-year freeze. I know how to find the funding. I have found the funding for that 4-year freeze, thanks to the current mayor, Sandy Brown, who undertook a number of initiatives the sale of the rail lands, which has generated $35 million in proceeds to the town. In my view, $10 to $12 million of those proceeds need to be treated as a return of the taxes that the taxpayers of Orangeville had to pay to other municipalities. My other main platform is seniors. We all know too well that we need more focus on the seniors in our community and do what's best for them. Thank you for your time in these opening remarks. I look forward to the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. We'll now hear from Mayor candidate Jeremy Williams.
Hello, I'm Jeremy Williams, and I'm asking you to vote for me in the upcoming Orangeville election. I spent 8 years of my life working hard to make our town's finances strong, to ensure our streets are maintained, our parks beautiful, safe from crime, with a reliable water supply. As your former mayor, I worked to reduce decades of accumulated deficit made under former councils. I led the way to reduce our debt and build up long depleted reserves. Despite a council with a diverse view, every single council meeting I chaired ended in a consensus vote. Tough decisions were made, energetically debated and resolved, decisions always made with public consultation. The tough choices we made then are paying off now. I don't want to see more reserves spent bringing on new debt while infrastructure work is being deferred. Putting off expenses into the future isn't sustainable. Our town had 3 jewels unique among towns in Ontario. We had a police force that we controlled. We were able to bring in outside revenue, which kept the budget frozen. Now we have a service controlled by the province, and they tell us how much to pay. We had a railway that brought tourism and the stability of economical and eco-friendly product shipment that our local industries relied on. The impact to our environment and roads will be a sad legacy of this short-sighted decision. The last council voted to permanently uproot over 300 years of history and tradition by voting to throw away OPS into the dumpster, uproot our railway, selling off the rails for scrap. I don't want more short-term thinking. But what about that third jewel in the crown of Orangeville? Orangeville Hydro. I've heard the rumors. Selling Orangeville Hydro would be a huge mistake. Although they don't control the cost of hydro, they do control the cost of distribution and are among the cheapest in Ontario. Any profit they do make goes right back to reduce your taxes. I've seen enough of my town uprooted over the past 4 years. I don't want to see any more. With your support, I intend to focus on the basics. This shouldn't be a popularity contest. I'll focus on the boring things, like taking a serious look at our high water costs, completing the Hanson Road connection, discouraging high-density development. This is Orangeville, it's not the city. I want to move away from a focus on social issues and get back to roads, low taxes, and long-term strategic planning. See my website for more. Address is on my signs. I've always been there for you. Now I ask you to take the time to support me with your vote. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jeremy. We'll now hear from mayoral candidate Lisa Post.
Thanks, Doug. 4 years ago, I stood on the stage at ODSS with Doug Harkness as moderator, because some things never change in Orangeville, and I shared my why with you, why I decided to run for council, and my answer was the same both in 2014 and in 2018 as it is today: community. It's what makes Orangeville unique and vibrant. It's what first motivated me to run for public office, and it is what has continued to motivate me today. I'm deeply connected to our town, and I want to continue working to improve life here for the residents of today while setting us up for success for the future generations. 4 years ago, I committed to bringing integrity, honesty, and an open mind to council chambers and working hard to represent the diverse voices in our community, and that is a promise kept. I'm exceptionally proud of the work that our council team has accomplished since the last election, amidst a global pandemic, to restore the decorum and professionalism that Orangeville residents deserve while making extremely difficult decisions that would position us positively for the future. We took a business approach to ensure that spending was under control, and as a result, the last 3 years we have averaged 1% increases to the municipal budgets in a time that inflation was hovering at over 2.5%. As our residents and business owners continue to feel the sting of the pandemic, and while the rising cost of living weighs heavily on all of us, a steady and experienced hand at the helm is what our community needs. Affordability is my top priority. We need to meet inflationary pressures with budget constraints and review our service delivery to ensure optimal cost and community benefit. Most importantly, we need to find creative solutions to the housing crisis so that everyone in our community has access to safe, affordable shelter, a basic human right. My focus on community ensures safe, equitable community building that prioritizes infrastructure maintenance, accessibility initiatives, and continued neighborhood road safety, while the focus on accountability brings your voices to the table with engagement through regular town hall forums, the reintroduction of the Mayor's Youth Council, and the implementation of a seniors advisory table. Finally, collaboration in all definitions needs to remain top of mind. Flexible economic development will help to attract growing sectors to provide good-paying jobs, and our relationships with the county and all other levels of government are paramount to our success. The ultimate vision: a place where our businesses prosper, our neighborhoods flourish, and our children come back to live and raise their families. A town where people of all ages and in all stages of life can thrive. A community that is sustainable and can stand up to future challenges. A vote for Post on October 24th will put a proven voice for the resident in the mayor's office so we can build the Orangeville we all want together. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. We'll now hear opening remarks from Deputy Mayor candidate Trevor Castiglione. Trevor.
Thank you. Well, the long and the short of it is I'm not going to have a pre-done speech and everything else. That's not the way I am. I'm passionate about Orangeville, and I am who I am. I take my business seriously. I take everything I do when it comes to business seriously. Orangeville needs to be treated more so like a business. It needs to be finding ways to save money without cutting services. It needs to listen to its people, or as a business, its customers, which the people of Orangeville would be. There's so many things that this past council and other councils have done. I don't believe in many of the things that this previous council has done is going to be long-term savings for the town. They haven't looked long-term. And in my view, many of their decisions with OPS and the train are not sensible. Hanson Boulevard not being open, again, not sensible. I understand the safety aspect, but there are ways of doing this. That part of Orangeville is completely cut off. EMS, fire, police, all have been checked with, along with town staff themselves, who have all said that this needs to be opened. That part of Orangeville is like, as Ms. Post has said in the past, an island. Ambulance response times over there are 6 to 7 minutes when they could be less than 2 minutes. I've heard from residents. Those residents have told me there have been serious injuries and deaths from individuals that couldn't get their services quick enough. When the ambulance service, fire, and police are all saying, yes, this should be open, that's a serious something that someone on council should be listening to, not just taking their own personal views and standing by that. When it comes to other things like our infrastructure, the previous council, in my view, has put off a lot of major projects that are going to cost the taxpayers in the long term. They just keep pushing them off to make it look good with their low tax percentages. This isn't going to work. In 4 to 5 years, we're going to be 4, 5, 6% tax increases because this infrastructure hasn't been maintained. We need to find cost savings, 100%, without cutting services. And there's many, many ways to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Trevor. We'll now hear opening remarks from mayoral candidate Kim Reed.
Thank you, Doug. Sorry, I have a cold and hopefully I won't lose my voice. My name is Kim Reed, and I would be honored to be your next mayor. I've lived and worked in Orangeville for the past 30 years. I deal in the geared to income sector, so I see the housing market. I see all areas of living situations. I've raised 5 children here. I'm now raising my grandchildren here as well. And over the past 4 years, we've seen a large turnaround in our town, 34%. The main reason people just can't afford to live here anymore. Taxes have increased in excess of 6 to 7% in the last 4 years, not to mention water and hydro rates. Many politicians make promises at election time to lower or even not raise taxes. I'm not here to do that. I'm here to find ways to make Orangeville work. I'm going to go out and find out the answers we need. If you have concerns, please bring them to me and we can find out answers together. Let's make Orangeville strong and work together. Please vote for me, Kim Reed.
Thank you, Kim. We'll now hear opening remarks from Deputy Mayor candidate Todd Taylor.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Todd Taylor. 4 years ago, when I ran for council, I did so because I was upset. I was upset with the state of our town. Council was dysfunctional, leadership was poor at best, and progress had slowed. There were key safety issues in the town that I wanted addressed, and I did not see a way for these to be done. I thought my skill set might resonate at Town Hall. Next thing I knew, I was in the election. Since the election 4 years ago, I've learned that the councillor role is a job. It takes time. It takes depth of thought. You find yourself in difficult situations and you need to find a way out of them and find a solution that works best for the town. For me, I learned that I enjoy it. Some people watch the Leafs game. I enjoy working on council issues that help the town of Orangeville. It's my passion. I like improving things. I like helping others. This last term of council was professional. Did we always get along? Did we always agree? No. However, we accomplished much together. Today, I'm proud to report that safety issues in Settlers Creek, College, and Rolling Hills have been resolved. I've learned a lot about how an effective municipality must run and how to be a community leader. It's hard to campaign in front of your friends, in front of your family, in front of your neighbors and fellow residents. I want each of you to know that I will do a good job. I won't let you down. On election night, I hope that you'll consider me. I've been accessible, I've worked hard, and I want to continue in the role of Deputy Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. We'll now move on to the question portion of the event, which is the more fun part for the moderator. So we'll begin with Jeff Patterson, the first question. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer, a maximum. So Jeff, how are you uniquely qualified to fill the role of mayor? What sets you apart from the other candidates?
For the most part, what sets me apart from the other candidates is the breadth and depth of my business experience and the fact that I am a certified professional accountant. I'm very comfortable with numbers. I've gone over the financial statements over the last 4 years. In fact, costs have increased faster than the rate of inflation during that 4-year period. I have the ability to do the analysis, to identify the opportunities, to control cost. I understand control mechanisms, both financial, management, and otherwise. We need to ensure that we're spending money on those things that we need to have, not necessarily want to have. And I believe that there have been some expenditures over the last 4 years that don't quite fit that model. We need also to keep in mind that every decision that we make, we have to think about sustainability. So every decision requires a filter, and my goal would be to work with council to apply that filter in every situation that's presented to council and for those strategies that the town should be pursuing. Keep our taxes under control, help our seniors to enjoy the town throughout their entire life, not just part of it. I want to ensure that I can bring to the table the talents that I have that I've learned over 40 years in business, and I'm now ready to apply those to the town of Orangeville. I hope that answers your question, Doug. Thank you.
Jeff. Jeremy, would you like me to read it again?
If you wouldn't mind.
Sure. How are you uniquely qualified to fill the role of mayor, and what sets you apart from the other candidates?
Well, thank you to whoever provided that question. I have to say that, I'm beyond the obvious. I'm the only one here who has been a mayor. I had twice as much experience on council as any person sitting at this table, both 4 years as a councillor and 4 years as a mayor. And, I'm going to share some personal things with you. I've always believed in my ability to deal with challenging situations. And I could not have believed that being a mayor is not as easy as some may believe. Being a mayor is a complex task. And I'm glad that I learned many of the lessons that I did learn as mayor. And I'm not talking about the things you learn at conferences, at training sessions, or dealing with people, but just being in the role as mayor. I'm not the same person I was the last time around. I've learned a lot. I've gained hubris, I've gained patience, understanding, and that quite frankly, I need to say less and listen more. And whoever gets this role as mayor, you really do have to listen more than you speak. And you have to understand that no matter what issue, what problem there is, it's always more complex than you think. There's always more perspectives on that problem. There isn't just one. So yeah, I've learned a great deal as mayor. I've learned a great deal in all my various volunteer activities over the years. And of course, I have a very long and varied business experience too. Thank you.
Jeremy. Lisa, how are you uniquely qualified to fill the role of mayor, and what sets you apart from the other candidates?
Thank you so much for the question, Doug. There's a few things that make me uniquely qualified for this position, and I'll start with, again, a bit of personal experience for me. As I've lived in Orangeville for 30 years. I chose to raise my family and my children here. I am looking to do better for them, to make sure that they can thrive in this community with their own families. I ran first for council in 2014 unsuccessfully, and when I was unsuccessful, I didn't walk away. Instead, I committed to staying connected to the municipal government and to learning more. So I attended every council meeting in the 2014 to 2018 term and read all the agendas, read all the reports, started to understand the intricacies of municipal budgeting, and it was things that I didn't know when I first walked in to run for council. In 2018, when I was elected, I took that opportunity to connect with the community, to listen to the community, to go out and meet residents in their driveways, to understand the intricacies within their own neighborhoods, and to act on them, to find solutions. That listening piece is a very important component of the council role. We build a great community by listening to our residents and having their voices heard at the council table. The other thing that makes me uniquely qualified is at 39 years old, so almost 4 years ago, I made the decision to go back to school. And I went back to school because I wanted to better my education and my understanding of community development. I'm currently completing my Bachelor of Community Development. I'm in my last year, and it's been an exceptional opportunity for me. It's given me additional education and knowledge about the needs of the social structures within our community and how to best address those through flexible changes to policies that can really impact the lives of residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Trevor, how are you uniquely qualified to fill the role of deputy mayor? What sets you apart from the other candidates?
Well, living here for over 40 years and owning local business, managing many local businesses over those 40 years, actually being in the community and dealing with so many different people on every level of income and jobs throughout those years. For me, being able to actually listen to people, hear what they have to say, and not be afraid to go after that topic in council chambers, which I've done numerous times for many, many issues. To me, talking down to people because you think you're better than them is not a way to be. And I've seen that happen with many on council. That's not who I am. I'm more than open to speak to anyone at any time about an issue. Maybe I can't solve it, but I will sure try and address it to the best of my ability. I will make sure that they're heard, be it one person or 20 people. I'm not just going to feed them something just to appease them. I'm going to actually listen and do something about it. And many in previous councils don't do that. They tell the people what they want to hear and just the topic is ended. That's not who I am. I'm passionate about my town. I've lived here almost all my life. I fought for many different issues in council for not just myself, but for the people of Orangeville. And I'm hoping to continue to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Trevor. Kim, how are you uniquely qualified to fill the role of mayor? What sets you apart from the other candidates?
Thank you, Doug. What I think sets me apart is day to day. I deal with seniors, I deal with low income, I deal with every aspect of Orangeville, and I listen to people's problems. I see the challenges. I see the challenges now of not being able to afford food because sustainability here in Orangeville has just gotten so out of control. I find that people over and over are trying to find ways to make things work. I am that person. I am the person that will help you find a solution. I'm proactive as opposed to reactive. I like to deal with a problem before it's a problem. I like to look at what our solutions are, what our options are, and listen to everybody. I think we need to take the time and hear what issues we have in Orangeville, what are the big concerns, and we need to address them prior to being a problem. We need to listen to our constituents. We need to take the time and we need to go out there and listen. I think that that's what would set me apart from everybody else. I think my door would always be open. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Todd, how are you uniquely qualified to fill the role of deputy mayor? What sets you apart from the other candidates?
Thank you, Doug. I think the best way to judge me or any candidate is to see what they've done in the past. The past will dictate what the future will bring. And candidly, before I was on council, I volunteered in many different organizations. A few of them, I was chair of the Mona Nordic Ski Club. I've been president of the Optimist Club. I've been an Optimist member for over 20 years. I've been very involved in Christmas in the Park. Those are just some of the things that come off the top of my head for my own things outside of town council. Prior to being elected, I was also chair of the library board. I was involved in the Mayor's Advisory Committee as well. And I think all of those things say, hey, you know, is this guy passionate about what's going on in the town? What's his point of difference? And I guess my message is, even if I'm not successful in this election, and I am not elected deputy mayor, I won't go away. I enjoy serving my community. I'll be involved in volunteering and helping out in some way, shape, or form moving forward. I guess other things that I want to share about my role on council, and council was a time for me to learn. I learned that people are looking for me to provide leadership, to provide solutions. I visited homes. I talked frequently, social media, emails, phone calls. I made sure that people knew that I wanted to hear from them. I did my utmost best to follow through with town staff, and town staff would vouch that I was one of the busier councilors following up on these issues. And I think on balance that the community would say the same, that I was available and I was there for them. So I guess the reality is I will work hard at this role. I will take it seriously, and I will do the best for the community in which I live. And that's what differentiates me from the other candidates.
Thank you, Todd. Jeremy Williams, you'll have the first opportunity to answer the next question. So Jeremy, if elected, what would you do to address the housing crisis in the community and to make it easier for first-time homebuyers to get into the market?
So You know, it's really easy to answer this question the way many might answer it and just say, well, we're going to provide cheap housing. We're going to jam in little places here and there, and we're going to make it so that everyone has a house. You know, these are challenging problems, and they're problems that we really need to work with at other levels of government. And I'm not talking about, oh, well, it's some other level of government, but the reality is, you know, a lot of the planning that is done is provincially led. A lot of the things like, you know, making the mortgage payments higher for everyone, that's a federal responsibility. So, you know, we need to do what we can to assist, but we also need to stay focused on what we are as a municipality. And I think that that's drifted a little bit. On our last council, nothing against some good people, they all mean well. But I honestly think that we need to focus more on finances, we need to focus more on roads, maintenance. Those are the kind of issues that we have to deal with regardless. And so I think that it's important that we understand our role in government, what we can do, what we can't do, and make sure we focus on the things that can actually do some good for our community. A community that has good sewers, good sidewalks, well-maintained roads. That's going to be the community for anyone, regardless of the housing situation. I'm also a big believer in the economy as a whole will sort this out. We're already starting to see prices coming down, but it is a frustrating thing, and I'll certainly do what I can to assist with that. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, Jeremy. Lisa, if elected, what would you do to address the housing crisis in the community and to make it easier for first-time home buyers to get into the market?
Thank you so much, Doug. I think this is a very loaded question, and I think it's absolutely no secret that we have a crisis at two ends of the housing market. We have a struggle with first-time home buyers trying to get into the market, and we have a struggle for seniors who are trying to downsize and exit from their larger homes. It's become unaffordable for them to move and downsize out of their large family homes into a 1 or 2 bedroom condominium without depleting all of the equity in their home. So I think in order to address this at a municipal level, we do need to stay within our lane, but we have the opportunity to be innovative. We can explore laneway housing. We can talk about improvements to building basement apartments. We can work with our planning and our bylaw department to incentivize the development of legal apartments, to make it more affordable for first-time home buyers to be able to subsidize some of the cost of living with having a renter in a safe, legal apartment. When we take on those challenges, we know that we're going to create other ones, though, and we will also, as part of that, need to address parking in residential neighborhoods. With added homes, with added apartments, there comes added parking issues. So we do have the opportunity, but it starts from the bottom up. We need to think creatively. We need to think differently. We need to work with other levels of government, with the county partners, with the province, with the feds, to make sure that affordable housing becomes a priority in Orangeville and in Dufferin County. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Trevor, if elected, what would you do to address the housing crisis in the community and to make it easier for first-time home buyers to get into the market?
Orangeville's always been a higher and more expensive area. Dufferin in general is getting that way, in my view. Many people are saying that, you know, laneway housing is an answer. Legalized apartments is the answer. We need to find ways such as these, I agree, but we have to solve other issues as well, like where do these people all park when we squeeze them all in? The provincial government has mandated, basically provincial, federal, all of them, that we have to keep squeezing people in. Unfortunately, some people on council continuously, previous council, have voted down just about every development that has come across the table. We pay for consultants as a council to bring in information about certain developments and how they should be and everything else, and well, council just votes no. Now we're stuck with going to the tribunal for the land and property, LPLAT, and that's costing us, the taxpayers, each time it's going there. To what success? There hasn't been. Look at 41 William Street. Council didn't like how it was, didn't like the way it was. They just continued to vote no, which, you know, they say that it doesn't fit that area. I agree. But unfortunately, your hands are tied. These people just take us to the tribunal, the LPLAT, and they win. So we need to find ways to have developers work more with council. We have to talk to planning. We have to work this through. There are solutions long term. It's not an overnight fix, but there's many problems that we're going to run into before we can solve the pricing problem and apartments and residents. Thanks.
Thank you, Trevor. Kim, if elected, what would you do to address the housing crisis in the community and to make it easier for first-time home buyers to get into the market?
For first-time home buyers, I mean, Dufferin County has a program where they'll match dollar for dollar, up to $25,000, I believe. Nowadays, you're looking at families moving in with families because they just can't afford houses. I mean, an average price in Orangeville is $900,000, and for a small family, they can't, or a new family, they just can't afford that. We need to look at what our options are. Housing, we keep building it, but it doesn't mean it's going to be affordable. We need to look at what other programs through the province, through federal if possible, are available to help families grow and to find roots in a community.
Thank you, Kim. Todd, if elected, what would you do to address the housing crisis in the community and to make it easier for first-time home buyers to get into the market?
Thank you very much, Doug. The first piece is we need a strong official plan. So the official plan will allow us to deal with those developers and make sure that those lots are set aside for specific development needs. Once that's done, and we've already been working with town staff on ensuring that's possible, there's also our county friends. And Kim had mentioned, I mean, there is a housing department there. There's the home ownership program that she mentioned. There's also programs for rent and utility assistance. There's programs for seniors. So there is money out there that can help with these things as we go forward. In terms of actual things that we can do, I've been on record as saying that I'm in favor of laneway housing where we can. I think that we should absolutely pursue that. I am also in favor of licensed multi-person dwelling homes. And the issue with both of those two things is it needs to suit the neighborhood. So they have to be licensed and they have to fit in with the rest of the neighborhood so that we're not causing disruption while those things are going on. But creative solutions like apartments above garage or basement apartments are certainly things that I think we should be doing. Other things that this town council has done, and I'm certainly in favor of, is we have a relationship with Habitat for Humanity, and certainly there's been a business partnership with them on those items as well. So, as Lisa and I think Jeremy had said, this is a complex issue. There's things that your municipal government can do, and certainly we can advocate. A lot of what can be done is through the provincial and the federal governments as well. So we're going to need those agencies as partners as we try and figure this out. Those that can't afford housing, it is a conundrum to say the least. When developments that come to council are brought to us, they're frequently told that, hey, these are affordable living homes. And you ask the question about how much it is, and they start at $800,000. So this is a unique problem, and we're going to have to get at it.
Thank you, Todd. Jeff, over to you. If elected, what would you do to address the housing crisis in the community and to make it easier for first-time home buyers to get into the market?
Affordable housing is a very complex issue. It means different things to different people. The town of Orangeville, any municipality, has to work with other levels of government in order to provide more affordable housing. The town can't do it alone, and so a great deal of coordination is required with those other levels of government. In terms of what the town can do as part of that team is to make sure that it has processes in place to facilitate the speed at which proposals can be heard, can be dealt with, and approvals either given or denied. I recently talked to a residential home developer who gave up on the town of Orangeville because of the extreme cost that had to be invested by the developer to the point where he wanted to put a sign on the front lawn that said, "This is how much of the cost of your home has got nothing to do with the actual cost of materials." Orangeville, as a municipality, needs to learn how to work with those other levels of government. I have the experience to do that. Work in partnership. Alternative forms of housing are fine, need to be controlled, but in the end, let's make sure we've got efficient processes. This is in part why you've got a strong mayor concept in major cities in the province. Toronto, it can take 3 years from time of the submission of a proposal until either an approval or a denial. I know Orangeville is not Toronto, but we can do things way more efficiently. And having been a business person, I experienced how well the town can do that. We need to make that available to all developers. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Lisa Post, you'll have the first opportunity to answer the next question. Orangeville transitioned from Orangeville Police Service to the OPP on October 1st, 2020. How successful do you think this transition was, and why specifically was it a good or bad decision?
Thank you very much. That's a great question. I'm extremely proud of the decision that our council made to change from Orangeville Police Service to the OPP. I know it was a contentious decision and it was a difficult decision, and as we walked through the process, I invested hours and hours and hours into learning more about policing, riding along with both services, and really trying to make the right decision for the community from a safety perspective as well as from a financial perspective. The seamless transition, thanks a lot to our CAO, Ed Brennan, has moved forward without any hiccups. The vast majority of the officers in Orangeville were offered positions with the OPP, and the morale is up higher than it has been in years. We've seen enhanced safety in the community. The OPP officers are present, they're accountable, they're easy to talk to. We will start to recognize those savings in the coming years as we move out of our transition contract and into the billing model. But already, we've already been able to see the improvements in our community from having the OPP as a large force helping us. When we need an additional service to come in, they bring them in from another municipality. If we need an enhanced specialty, they bring them in under the province. We don't have to have all of those services in our local detachment at all times. It has really given us the opportunity to move ahead with a lot of drug removal from our community. There have been a lot of raids that have been conducted as a result of really long investigations through the OPP. We've taken drugs off the street. We've enhanced road safety. Overall, I'm extremely pleased with that transition, and I'm pleased with the decision that we made. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Trevor, Orangeville transitioned from Orangeville Police Service to the OPP on October 1st, 2020. How successful do you think this transition was, and why specifically was it a good or bad decision?
Well, hearing from the people that I've spoke to and being that I was very involved during the transition in speaking to council themselves about many of the possible issues and the consultants' reports and so on and so forth, given the fact that now we only have, and I could be off by 1 or 2, 7 original Orangeville officers that are with OPP here in Orangeville, that the calls for service are much, much higher than the consultant had originally said that they would be, which I do believe I said something along those lines, which then means that the OPP will end up costing us much more than what the consultant is saying. A lot of residents are telling me, yes, you see OPP during the day, you know, driving around town, going to the courthouse, be it whatever, and OPP has great services available. There's no doubt about that. With a budget like they have, I would hope that they would. At night, you could drive down the main street, and I've done it. You don't see them. Their response times are quite long. The income and revenue from tickets generated by OPP is nothing compared to what OPS was. The traffic enforcement, you don't see it like you did with the OPS. Don't get me wrong, OPP's out there, but they're trying to cover a much, much larger area than what OPS was. Local residents are saying that the speeding on their streets is atrocious. So do I think the switch over to OPP was good? No, we already had those resources available from OPP anytime we needed them. So I think it was a mistake, and it's going to cost us.
Thank you, Trevor. Kim, Orangeville transitioned from Orangeville Police Service to the OPP on October 1st, 2020. How successful do you think this transition was, and why specifically was it a good or bad decision?
Thank you, Doug. Excuse me. I think the transition went smoothly. I mean, we didn't see any change in service when we switched from OPS to OPP. I don't think we can make a determination yet as to whether it was successful or not. We're still under the 3-year contract, and once we're being charged for calls for service, I think then we can make a determination whether or not we're going to save money or if we made a mistake. Up until that point, I don't think we can decide. I mean, out of 58 officers that went from OPS to OPP, only 6 are left, be it some have left OPP completely, some have left OPS, some, have transferred out to bigger and better. Orangeville has sort of been amalgamated into Dufferin County coverage now, and so as other people have said, there's a bigger area to cover. So calls to service could be a lot longer than what they were, but until we see the actual numbers, I don't think we can make that determination just yet.
Thank you, Kim. Todd, Orangeville transitioned from Orangeville Police Service to OPP on October 1st, 2020. How successful do you think this transition was, and why specifically was it a good or bad decision?
Thank you, Doug. To be clear, it was never about what was a better service to me, OPS or OPP. These are disciplined, professional people who serviced our town and kept us safe. I had no problems with OPP or OPS. OPP is here now. They're doing a tremendous job. Inspector Ward is top-notch in his leadership. The tools that we get from OPP are phenomenal. Chief Kalinsky under OPS, in my view, was a fantastic leader. So I don't think you can compare those two things, and it never was that for me. However, when it came to vote, council voted 6-1, and I was the one. I didn't like the consultant. I didn't think that the consultant was the right person to run that program. I didn't buy the $58 million. It makes me angry as I sit here and think about it today. In business, I deal with perspectives and latest estimates all the time. I've never seen such a wild guess in terms of what the money could be. As we sit here today, I track it diligently, and I know exactly where we are. We're not hitting the numbers that were brought forth by the consultant or the treasurer at this time. As we sit here, we have $6 million on a line of credit. The line of credit rate is low. We're not paying a lot of interest. However, we had to pay for pensions, we had to pay for a buyout, and we had to pay for a police station. And it saddens me to think that we've got all this money sitting on our books when we didn't have to have that. The calls for service, we don't know what that is. The comments made earlier about knowing if they're higher or lower, it's hyperbole. We don't know what they are. Once the contract is up in 3 years, we'll understand exactly what the costs are, and we'll all know. And unfortunately, that doesn't coincide with this election, so we won't know for another year. I think it's important to note that even though I voted not to do this, my role as the chair of the Police Services Board was to implement, and that's exactly what I did. I supported council, I followed through with OPP and OPS, and I made sure that we had that service implemented.
Thank you, Todd. Jeff, Orangeville transitioned from Orangeville Police Service to the OPP on October 1st, 2020. How successful do you think this transition was, and why specifically was it a good or bad decision?
I believe it's too early to determine whether it's been successful or not. There are 3 elements that I would look to in terms of measuring success. One is clearly financial, but the others are safety, and the relationship that the police services have with the community. I would say it's too early stage for the latter two. As far as the financial aspect of the transition, that remains to be seen. It cost the taxpayers of the town of Orangeville $6 million to fund the transition. That money's gone. As mayor, part of my challenge to council and requirement, frankly, will be to make sure that we actually achieve the benefits that were identified within the presentation that the police, the OPP that is, made to the town. We should thank Mayor Brown for having worked diligently to work with council to make this happen. I think it is the right decision, and I think in the long term it will be better for the town of Orangeville. My own personal experience has been that there was an improvement in safety in the neighborhood, whereas the Orangeville Police Service, for some undetermined time, couldn't seem to deal with a particular house where obviously some illegal transactions were occurring. Within 2 months of the transition to the OPP, that activity stopped, and that safety concern in that neighborhood is no longer there. One can only speculate why it took OPS so long and in fact never did deal with it. Success for me will be those three elements, and I'll make sure the financial ones are achieved as the mayor of the town. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Jeremy, Orangeville transitioned from Orangeville Police Service to the OPP on October 1st, 2020. How successful do you think this transition was, and why specifically was it a good or bad decision?
So I have to preface everything I say with what I've said many times before, and that is we have many fine officers. The OPP is a fine organization. OPS was a fine organization. I also want to, Jeff just recently said how he's going to do this or do that, but that's part of the problem. It's out of our hands now. We gave up policing. We gave it up. OPP is under provincial control. And yes, we do have a committee that meets infrequently, but your ability to actually affect change as a police service is gone forever. But whether you agree with me or you disagree with me that I think this was a terrible decision, because I do. I've been on the record saying that I think this is a terrible decision. Whether you agree with me or you don't agree with me, I have great difficulty in the way it was implemented. So, under my term, we had all this, back and forth about what's best, what isn't best. I believe that the current council was sold a bill of goods. I don't believe in the numbers or the figures. And when I actually pushed them on some of the details, no, they're going to bill whatever they're going to bill. But regardless whether you agree with me or not, the public should have been approached with a referendum or a plebiscite. If my council had decided to get rid of them, it would have gone for a referendum. I think it's shameful that this council did that. It should have gone to a public referendum. Big, huge, fundamental changes in the way we do things in our town. You've got to engage with the public more.
Thank you, Jeremy. Trevor Castiglione, you'll have the first opportunity to answer the next question. So Trevor, recognizing that workforce challenges are a global issue, they are still the single biggest issue that our Board of Trade hears from our businesses. What actions would you take at the municipal level to help businesses find the employees that we all need?
I don't think it just comes down to find the employees. We as a municipality need to, and the county, support local businesses much more. As a local business owner and one that has managed many local businesses over the years, it can be very challenging dealing with municipal governments and government in general, which isn't surprising. But I don't find that Orangeville promotes local businesses very well, in my view. There's the constant saying by many, support local. Yet, on a regular basis, previous councils are hiring businesses from out of town when we have many, many businesses here that they should be supporting. They should be advertising these local businesses, helping these businesses to find funding, whatever it takes to make businesses succeed in Orangeville or in the county in general. We need to start to push to help these businesses. And if they're not asking for the help, maybe we should approach them with ideas. I don't find that municipal government, Orangeville in general, or countywide, as a local business owner, we get much in the way of support or avenues that we can go to try and expand our businesses, get our business information out to the local people. And I think that's a big mistake. I think we need to start supporting our local businesses more, which in the long run will attract more businesses. And we can actually have more better paying jobs in this town.
Thank you, Trevor. Kim, recognizing that workforce challenges are a global issue, they are still the single biggest issue that our board hears from our businesses. What actions would you take at the municipal level to help local businesses find the employees that they need?
I think we need to look at doing job fairs. I think a big problem is transportation. I hear it all the time. Buses don't run on Sundays, so that limits people and how they can get to work. Our taxi system is very unreliable. You can call a taxi and you're waiting sometimes 20 minutes. And an employee that is trying to get to work, if they can't get there, you know, an employer isn't going to want them there, number one, and they aren't going to want to work. I'm finding after the pandemic, there's more people that don't want to work than do. And the reason is we've kind of switched over to a work-at-home based business, and I think we need to find a happy medium again. You know, there's a meme that says, here's the email, you're going back to work, and everybody has a panic attack. I think we need to find a happy medium where everybody's working together and we have systems in place for employees to get together, to get to work.
Thank you, Kim. Todd, recognizing that workforce challenges are a global issue, they are still the single biggest issue that our board hears from our businesses. What actions would you take at the municipal level to help local businesses find the employees that they need?
Thank you, Doug. To me, this whole labor shortage is perplexing. I see it in my day job. We can't get people. We can't get professional people. I think in all honesty, you're seeing it right now as you look at this panel of people. There's less people running for council, different skill sets for sure, but you're seeing it in all facets of life. So I want to share with you things that we are doing currently. So for businesses that want to come to Orangeville, we've got low development charges for business. There's low commercial taxes when comparing us to other municipalities within Ontario. There's the facade improvement program, which helps with our businesses. We've just had high-speed fiber optic cable installed for sure. One of the biggest issues within our town is land. Most of the development that's been done on businesses has been expansions of current buildings. We're not getting new businesses. The businesses that we are getting are home-based or smaller, and that's where the economy is going to grow. In terms of things that we can do, there is a doctor plan to be able to bring doctors to our town. And some of the things that we do to have those doctors come, Mono Nordic puts on a ski day for them. There's other benefits in terms of golf memberships and things like that, which sounds elitist, but the point is we need professional people to come here and help service our community. However, in terms of the absolute, what are we going to do about somebody working at the Bluebird? It's a very difficult thing, and I'm not sure that town council is necessarily going to be able to fully help with that in this environment. However, those are the list of things that I have mentioned that we are currently doing and will do to help those businesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Jeff, recognizing that workforce challenges are a global issue, they are still the single biggest issue that our board hears from our businesses. What actions would you take at the municipal level to help local businesses find the employees that they need?
Thank you, Doug. Training and development. totally key to being able to find not just employees, but good employees. In the logistics world recently, I heard an executive make the comment, it used to be difficult to find a good driver. Now it's difficult to find a driver. The town's involvement in terms of training and development is part of my platform. I want to work with other levels of government, in this case, mostly the province, to put in place programs that will help generate professional people right here in the town of Orangeville. We can focus those professionals on the seniors in the community. In business, for business in general, it is a challenge. We also need to present to young people different work alternatives. Recently, the Dufferin Board of Trade put together, I thought, a fabulous day, brought students in not just from Orangeville, but from all around Dufferin County and beyond, at a trades fair, not to be confused with a trade fair, where people were challenged, not only the younger people, but also their parents, to think about a career in the trades. Frankly, the young people are there. They're looking for challenges. I've had my challenges in hiring locally. But you know what? If you look hard enough, you'll find good people, well-educated people. They want to work. They want to do a good job. But it takes a huge amount of effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Jeremy, Orangeville, recognizing that workforce challenges are a global issue, they are still the single biggest issue that our board hears from our businesses. What actions would you take at the municipal level to help local businesses find the employees that they need?
I'm kind of looking at one of those solutions. The Dufferin Board of Trade is an amazing organization that we work with through a variety of different ways. In particular, our small business, and when I say our, I mean the town of Orangeville Small Business Development Center. They have some really good people, and I think that if town council seriously engages the partnership and strengthens the partnership between DBOT, Dufferin Board of Trade, and our Small Business Center, then I think we can do great things. And I've been to some of your job fairs just to cover it for social media, and we need to do more of those. We need to extend conversations towards schools. You know, my own wife is a guidance counselor. You guys need to come out to them. And so really, it's really about collaboration. And it's also about setting of priorities as far as budget and everything else to provide the tools for DBOT and our Small Business Center to reach out and effectively engage with the people that they want a job, they just maybe don't know how to connect the dots. And that's what good government's all about.
Thank you, Jeremy. Lisa, recognizing that workforce challenges are a global issue, they are still the single biggest issue our board hears from our businesses. What actions would you take at the municipal level to help businesses find the employees that they need?
We know that coming out of COVID, there are some businesses who still can't even open fully because they don't have the employees to keep their doors open the regular business hours that they had. My daughter works at Tim Hortons, and Tim Hortons, as an example, is struggling to find people. They no longer operate a midnight shift because they just don't have the capacity. And in our small business world, that's a real struggle. So there's a few things from a municipal level that I think that we can do, and it starts with the promotion of business, working in partnership with Dufferin Board of Trade and the BIA and other organizations to identify which businesses are having gaps in what area, to try and put together events similar to, like Jeff mentioned, the Skilled Trade Dreams Day, where we can showcase businesses, showcase opportunities. It was fascinating walking around the Skilled Trades thing and seeing the kids who had no idea that some of these were even career options. So being able to highlight those pieces is very key. But beyond that, building great community helps businesses find employees. When we can address issues of affordability, issues of transit, identify housing crisis solutions, and create better transportation opportunities for teenagers to get to and from a retail job, and make it a more walkable, accessible town. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. So Kim Reed, you'll have the first opportunity to answer the next question. In addition to the Broadway Bricks infrastructure project, what other key infrastructure projects need to be addressed over the next 4 years?
Thank you, Doug. I think we need to continuously look at our roads and our overall infrastructure to make sure it's taken care of. I think we need to have a plan, set out a plan, see what's been looked at, see what needs to be looked at, see where we need to go from here and what needs to be done based on a priority basis. To pick a certain thing, I don't think we can do that. I think we need to look down the list and say, these are what are the highest priorities, and we need to prioritize those as a priority and go from there.
Thank you, Kim. Todd, in addition to the Broadway Bricks infrastructure project, what other key infrastructure projects need to be addressed over the next 4 years?
Thank you, Doug. So first off, that Broadway brick project, it was supposed to be done last year. Council agreed that we would delay it simply because the businesses had been through enough with COVID, and that's why it's ongoing this year. And I thought that was really important. Moving forward, there's 4 pieces of infrastructure. There's transportation, water, wastewater, and storm. All of those aspects have to be looked after as we go forward. This year in particular, we've looked after the water meter and billing upgrades, Broadway sidewalk bricks, as has been brought up, Centennial Road reconstruction, the Alder Pool, which is probably one of the most controversial things of this term, and it's an absolute abomination that we had to put that much money into a 20-year-old building, but you just couldn't leave it the way it was. It had to be fixed. Alder Pool, the fire station reconstruction, trail development is certainly something that I think that we should continue with, and it's being done now. We put in a new salt structure, cybersecurity, which is absolutely key right now because of the hacking that's going on, electric vehicles for bylaw staff, is key, and then sidewalk maintenance. I guess the last thing that I would add to that is also tree planting and stump removal, which needs to be done as well. Moving forward, I think that this council is going to have to come up with a plan for our recreation facilities. And the big thing that we're going to have to look at, and it's probably going to be the most controversial thing in the next 3-ish years, is Tony Rose. Tony Rose is at the end of its life. Tony Rose B, if you spent any time in that facility, is an abomination. It is absolutely terrible to watch a hockey game there. We're a lacrosse town. We don't have any lacrosse facilities. We don't have indoor ones. We don't have outdoor ones. We should have an outdoor field as well. And these are all things that I think there's reference to the $32 million that we have as a result of selling off the railroad. These are all things that I want to have a debate about. I want to make sure that we get public consultation and talk about these things as we go forward, because they'll define the town over the next 50 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Todd. Jeff, in addition to the Broadway Bricks infrastructure project, what other key infrastructure projects need to be addressed over the next 4 years?
I would start by saying, Doug, that the reconstruction of the sidewalks on Broadway, while not complete so far, I think has been a fabulous step forward. Sorry for the pun. I was part of the group that wanted the work deferred for a year, and I was very thankful that we were able to achieve that given the circumstances at the time. Other infrastructure projects, of course, the completion of Hanson Boulevard. We need to get that done. A report was just tabled yesterday, which looks like it could go on to 2024. We need to take remedial action in that regard. With respect to recreation, I think we've been short in spending in that particular area, as evidenced by the lack of facilities to support certain types of sports within the community. But in general terms, I would look to the professionals that work for the town of Orangeville and ensure that they're remaining on top of and informing council as to all of the infrastructure priorities, from those that are most urgent on down, and make sure that we are funding those on a timely basis, working within our means to ensure that we don't run into major tax increases as a result. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Jeremy, in addition to the Broadway Bricks infrastructure project, what other key infrastructure projects need to be addressed over the next 4 years?
The other candidates have mentioned a few of them, so I won't repeat them. However, I do find it interesting that the focus of this council has been a lot about road and pedestrian safety, reducing speed limits and that kind of thing. And yet one of the best ways to improve safety for pedestrians is to provide them sidewalks so that they're not on the road. And many of the newer areas, they have that, but there are a lot of areas in town where they don't have sidewalks, or they don't have the right amount of sidewalks based on the traffic. I would hope that that could be addressed, because it's just common sense, isn't it? Another thing is often overlooked, and that's flooding in this town. And whether you believe in climate change or you don't believe in climate change, certainly in my time living here, which was most of my life, I've seen an increase in flooding in some of the lower areas of our town. And I think that we need to do more, not just to encourage the Credit Valley Conservation Authority to uphold their mandate to prevent and control flooding, but also some of the things that we can do as a municipality as far as planning. So I think that's important. I also have to say that the Hanson connection, it really does need to go through. There's something that I really pushed for during my election, my last election. I wasn't successful in being elected, but I was successful in helping to raise that as a bigger issue. I want to see that done. I'm tired of it. I want to see us work with the developers that are there and get it done. I don't agree with my esteemed colleague to the right of me in regards to the way of doing that. I don't believe removing the barricades and allowing all that traffic to go through College and all those other streets is the right way to do it. I don't agree with that, Jeff. Sorry.
Thank you, Jeremy. Lisa, in addition to the Broadway Bricks infrastructure project, what other key infrastructure projects need to be addressed over the next 4 years?
Thank you so much, Doug. The Broadway Bricks project has been an absolute success in improving accessibility to the downtown core. There are a lot of seniors and folks with mobility issues that haven't been to the downtown core in a long time for fear of tripping. We need to prioritize other accessibility initiatives such as sidewalk repair and sidewalk maintenance to make sure that the rest of our communities are equally as safe as our Broadway will be with the new enhanced bricks. Todd mentioned most of my list, so I won't regurgitate a lot of them, but prioritizing road maintenance, finishing the Alder Pool, identifying recreation opportunities, as Todd had mentioned, is going to be a really important piece going forward, and we can do a lot of that by identifying the opportunities that we have for Tony Rose. There's also one item that's been outstanding for a long time that people don't like to talk about, but we're in need of a cultural center. It was something that was identified as part of our cultural plan back in 2014 or sooner, and it's the one item that still hasn't been crossed off that list, so I think that's something we really need to investigate. And the other piece would be neighborhood parks. There are a lot of neighborhoods that are looking for enhancements to their local parks to be able to keep their kids playing locally, and I think that prioritizing some of that infrastructure is an important piece as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Trevor, in addition to the Broadway Bricks infrastructure project, what other key infrastructure projects need to be addressed over the next 4 years?
The list is very long, as everyone at this table knows. I think this next 4 years, as Todd said, it's going to be the Alder Rec problems that keep creeping up, and Tony Rose. We've already had one major problem at Alder. What else is going to creep up over there? Tony Rose, yeah, Arena B's horrific. I mean, and we just keep dumping money into it. When is enough? What are we going to do about this? Are we going to go all in with this? Or are we just going to keep pushing it off? Road maintenance, definitely. I mean, there's some places in town, residents are saying, why is it these roads are being taken apart, basically, and deteriorating within 5 and 6 years of being done? Well, we have to start looking into finding out why this is happening and hold people accountable. Just as Alder, someone should have been accountable for that. I don't even understand how council hasn't decided to go after someone because of that complete lack of, I don't even know where to go for. That's a huge expense. We can't have expenses like that. We need to be looking at, getting this bus transfer station done. That way we can actually get people around town a little bit better, a little bit quicker. Things like this, snow removal. I'm not a fan of doing all of the sidewalks. I think that's a huge expense. But again, certain areas of town do need it, where there's seniors, where there's a lot of, school areas. These are just a few things.
Thank you, Trevor. Todd Taylor, you'll have the first crack at the next question. When a resident uploads a sidewalk complaint to the town's website, what is an acceptable service standard time for a repair?
Doug, I almost wish I wasn't first on this question. It's an exercise in frustration. I'll be completely honest. And your question states that they're actually uploading it to the system. Lots of people don't understand our system. So what I think they do is they phone town hall or they phone their local counselor and they hope that we can help them. And for the most part, we do help them. But we do have things that are available to us in the town and, thinking them through. So we've got the Ping Street mobile app and, people can do that. They can get news, events, and certainly help with problem solving through that. There's Data Orangeville, there's GIS mapping. All of these things are available, plus the library outreach programs. But in terms of an acceptable amount of time to have their sidewalk fixed, boy, that it's been an exercise in frustration for me. So when you come along and you see an orange piece of paint sprayed upon your sidewalk, I think the idea is that you think that sidewalk is going to be fixed. The reality is we're pointing out to you that you might trip on it, and we're just kind of saying to you that it might take a couple of years to have that fixed. In the budget period last time, we were all ready to pass that budget. And I said, wait a second, I've got two other things here that are an irritant to me. And one of them was sidewalks, and the other one was trees, and the other one was stump removal of trees. We're slow on all of these things. So Mr. Koslak, who's our engineer, put that into the budget that we were going to have these sidewalks replaced. And in all honesty, we talked earlier before this meeting about the concrete shortages and what's happening there. It's been difficult to get the sidewalks done. On top of that, trees, when you can get them cut down, but to have the stumps removed, locates. We're way behind on locates. So there's certainly things that we need to improve upon in the town. I'm not going to defend it. I wish we were better. We need to improve.
Thank you, Todd. Jeff, when a resident uploads a sidewalk complaint to the town's website, what is an acceptable service standard time for the repair?
Whether it's a sidewalk complaint or any type of issue that a resident has with the services provided by the town of Orangeville, there needs to be a consistent response that meets both the needs of the residents and is doable by the town of Orangeville. I've been in service businesses in all my life, and what I've found is that you need to identify for everybody that's providing that service, in this case the employees of the town of Orangeville, what the expected service delivery standard is. That's going to vary by type of service, but there needs to be a complete understanding. We need to talk to the residents to find out what they want as an acceptable level of response time with respect to their particular service requirement. We define that for the people involved in the town that are delivering that service, and we make sure that we've got the tools, the training, the systems in place so that the town can respond to whatever service issue a resident of the town is experiencing on a timely basis and get it resolved. Once everyone understands what those service delivery requirements are, we communicate them to both the residents of the town, the employees that work for the town understand what they have to meet so that expectations are always met and things are completed on a timely and complete basis. It's just the way it's got to work. I've had success in that throughout my entire business career. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Jeremy, when a resident uploads a sidewalk complaint to the town's website, what is an acceptable service standard time for the repair?
So there's a few things, and clearly the person is looking for a specific answer, so I'll give a specific answer. It's a software-based system. So the response should be within a few milliseconds or seconds as far as receiving the complaint, acknowledging that the problem exists and that town staff will look at it. Along with that immediate response should be something that tells the resident exactly what's going to happen next, the next steps. And that's something that, I'm a big believer in engineers and people that are specializing in this field. So they need to look at it and see what's reasonable. Obviously, if you've got a hole from a meteorite or something like that, there's a broken pipe, there's water flooding, the response should be scaled accordingly and be much faster. That's the kind of response that should be geared so when it first comes in, there's a tree of people on the list that get notified. The Director of Public Works should be one of those people if it's a big problem. And then, frankly, within one business day, somebody from Town Hall should be out there to look, confirm, realize that it is a problem or it isn't a problem, and then get back to the person who initiated the complaint. It's key with these systems that the person initiating the complaint gets information back in a very fast and timely manner. So as far as how long it takes to fix the sidewalk, that's a little bit of a different situation depending on the nature of the damage, the time of year, etc.
Thank you, Jeremy. Lisa, when a resident uploads a sidewalk complaint to the town's website, what is an acceptable service standard time for the repair?
Thank you, Doug. As my colleagues have said, this is a loaded question in a bit, because what it comes down to is I don't think it's so much about the sidewalk repair. I think it's about the communication that happens from the initial concern being brought forward to the final step. So we've done a lot of work to bring in smarter initiatives, smart city planning, the use of an app, being able to upload concerns online. What we haven't done a great job of yet is promoting that to the public. So like Todd said, a lot of people are reaching out to counselors when they could be submitting quickly at home and receiving an acknowledgement email back pretty quickly. I think the key piece here is that we need to set a standard for a response time for acknowledgement and a response time for the triaging that will happen as a result of that. So whether it's a sidewalk crack or a light out on the street or any other concern that residents see in their neighborhood, we need to have a system in place that will recognize and acknowledge that concern, send somebody out to triage it, put it in a list of order of importance of where it's going to fit in, and then communicate that expectation back to the resident and be able to follow through with it. So if there is a delay, that communication piece needs to happen to the resident so that expectations continue to be clear and that we can continue to have an open dialogue with the residents. Most of the time, residents just want to know that they're being heard and that their concerns are being taken care of. So if we can improve those lines of communication, that will go a long way. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Trevor, when a resident uploads a sidewalk complaint to the town's website, what is an acceptable service standard time for the repair?
Well, I would have to agree with Mr. Williams. It's a computer, and the system itself could respond to those residents post-haste. Then it needs to go through, unfortunately, Public Works and so on and so forth, and be assessed on just how bad it is. Some residents have been complaining about sidewalk problems that they've had out front of their homes for 10 years. It was a big social media complaint that many residents got on board with just recently on Facebook. The town's markings of these sidewalks, yeah, okay, they're sending out a student or whomever it may be to mark these sidewalks, but the determination of whether or not it's going to be fixed today, tomorrow, next week, well, that type of information needs to get back to the resident that's filed the complaint much, much better than in the past, because there's been no communication. I myself have called about many problems with the sidewalks being broken after winter, of course, with the sidewalk plows, and things like that happen out front of my place of business. Because there's so many children that are going across the street and walking on those sidewalks, it's a big concern to me. I haven't got word one back from Public Works about it. They just randomly show up, spray paint, and leave. Not once have I got a phone call back about it. They fixed it finally when they did the Princess Street repairs for the water and sewers. But that was 2 years after the initial complaint, and there was a significantly sized hole in the sidewalk for kids, little kids that are walking to school. There must be a better way to get to the people what the problems are, when they're going to be solved.
Thank you, Trevor. Kim, when a resident uploads a sidewalk complaint to the town's website, what is an acceptable service standard time for the repair?
I think that we need to prioritize. I think that when a call is placed or a complaint, I think that we need to say, once it's uploaded or a phone call is made, we need to prioritize it. We need to, within 24 hours, have Public Works go out and take a look and make a decision and prioritize. Is this a serious danger? If it is, I mean, if somebody's complained that there's a water main break in front of their house, no, we're not going to wait 24 hours. That's what I mean by prioritizing. If there's a water main break, we need to have somebody out there immediately, prioritize, assess the situation, decide what needs to be done. As Trevor said, you know, every year right in front of my house, year after year, for at least 10 years, you know, they've colored my sidewalk orange and said we're going to get to it. We've heard rumors that this year is the year the town is going to do the sidewalks. Well, I think the town communicating with the public and saying, you know what, right now we need to focus on X, Y, or Z. We're going to get to this sidewalk. It's not top priority. If anything changes, please let us know. But we need to work with people and we need to communicate. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. The next question is pretty long, and I think people tuning in tonight would rather listen to the six of you than to me, so I'll only read it once unless you ask me to read it a second time. So Jeff, you'll get the first crack at this one. The town of Orangeville sold the real estate assets of the Orangeville Railway Development Corporation for approximately $32 million. $92 million of this was losses incurred by the railway since it was purchased in 2000. What should the municipality do with the remaining windfall?
Thank you, Doug. It's an excellent question. My own platform is to hold taxes. We pay taxes in the town of Orangeville that are extremely high, certainly in relative to other municipalities. So part of my platform is to freeze taxes for the next 4 years. The source of funds, or part of the source of the funds to do that, comes from the sale of those rail lands. A significant portion of the proceeds of the sale of the $32 million represents a recovery of the taxes that the taxpayers of Orangeville had to pay to other municipalities during the years in which that land was owned. It was a redundant asset for the town, and so it was wise to move it off the balance sheet, convert it to cash, and now we can use part of those proceeds for that purpose. We can also fund the control of taxation and not allow increases through the savings derived from the change from OPS to the OPP. We also have the savings that will accrue on an annual basis from not having to pay those $500,000 worth of taxes to other municipalities because of the ownership of the rail lands. I've been through the numbers. I am an accountant. I've identified those sources to fund any increase in costs of operation so that we can hold taxes where they are. The taxpayers of Orangeville can't be an endless source of funds for the town to spend. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Jeremy, over to you.
Well, Doug, it's rather a lot of money, isn't it? But it's not my money, and it's not really even the town's money. It's everyone. It's the taxpayers' money. It's also kind of a magic point in time that, although I don't agree with what happened to acquire that money, nevertheless, it is money that should be used and used wisely. I would not want to see it frittered away and you know, it's like some heirloom you just throw in the fireplace and it keeps you warm for a day and then it's done and it's gone, and then, you know, what's going to happen is that budget is not elastic. it's going to very much come back on you. So, you know, you spend it all now giving it back to taxpayers through reduced taxes, and it's just going to be a real big load of taxes when we run out of that money. I would suggest that because it's not my money, it's your money, it's the taxpayers' money, that you should be approached. You should be given an opportunity to say, do we want to do something about Tony Rose B and the change rooms? Do we want to do something at Alder? Do we want to do something with our libraries? This is an important time to make those decisions, and we must respect whose money it is. It's your money, it's the taxpayers' money. Short answer, I would like to see some public engagement about long-term projects or things that we need for this town going long-term and then proceeding that way.
Thank you, Jeremy. Lisa, over to you.
Thank you. My proposal for this money is quite simple. I think that the money needs to stay in investments for a minimum of 2 years while we conduct, as Jeremy said, public consultation. This is the public's money. It is a load of money that the taxpayers of Orangeville have never had this type of money to try and figure out what they want to do with it. Engaging the public to determine whether it's used in recreation or in transit or in infrastructure, or if it's an investment in the arts, or if it's something completely different. That needs to be up to the taxpayers of Orangeville, and we need to do significant public consultation before we touch a dime of that money. So I would suggest that it stays in investments and continues to grow for a minimum of 2 years before any of it is touched. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Trevor.
It is a windfall by the sale of the railway. What's done is done, and now the people of Orangeville need to decide. They need to decide where those funds should be spent. It shouldn't just be council. There should be all inputs from everyone. And I'm hoping that it can be done sooner than later. Yes, it's great to have it put away and, you know, acquiring interest and so on and so forth. But we need many things done. Tony Rose, it's not going to last 2-3 years. There needs to be a significant amount of money put into that. But what else is going to crop up? What other needs are other people of Orangeville seeing that they want done? There needs to be a significant campaign done by this council that is going to be voted in and town staff to get the people of Orangeville involved. Get their input. Public meetings, online, every and any avenue possible, so that the people of Orangeville can actually have their true say as to what's done with these funds. Thank you.
Thank you, Trevor. Kim?
Doug, thank you. I think that we need to make sure that we invest this money properly, that we look at our reserves, we look at what people want. What is a priority? Again, I know I keep using that word, but what is a priority? We need to stop and we need to listen to what people want. No, we can't give everybody everything that they want, but we need to look at an overall whole. Is it families that are here and we need to look at recreation? Is it, you know, seniors programs that would benefit? Is it infrastructure? What would be the best value for that money? And long term, we need to not just look today and poof, you know, that money is gone. We need to look at where Orangeville's going, what we want to do, what we want to, I think we need to have an identity, you know, not just a bedroom town or, oh, you know, Orangeville's just there. Maybe this is where, you know, we give ourselves an identity and this is who we are. But we definitely need to speak to the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Todd?
Thank you, Doug. So first of all, I voted to sell that railroad, and I'm very confident in my decision to do so. The railroad was costing us $450,000 a year. We had that for 20 years. No other form of government offered to come and help us with that. The county didn't come in, the province didn't come in, the federal government didn't come in, and for a small town of our size, we should not have had to pay those monies. So we sold the land. We found $32 million came as a result of that. Trailways are going in through town. That money has already been allocated for that, and I think the trailways are going to be absolutely fantastic. My idea on policy and the way that we should go forward with the town is I'm not a fan of subsidizing our operating costs. And by operating costs, if you're running your own home, I mean to pay your union gas bill or your cable bill through funding of the selling of an asset. What I want to do is keep that money and spend it on something that the town wants and needs that'll be a long-lasting piece to this town in terms of a capital project. And so some of the folks have talked about what that could be. And I do think the recreation facilities are a really good thing. I miss talking about the parks, and I credit Lisa Post with bringing this forward, but I would like to call forward Rolling Hills, Settlers Creek. These areas need to have this development done. The other thing is we're landlocked. Throwing out ideas here, we're absolutely landlocked. We're 15 kilometers square. One of the problems is we're running out of employment lands. Could we purchase lands that would help us drive employment within our town? So these are all things that should be looked at. And the reality of it is I'm not going to make that decision. We're going to talk about that as a town, and I'll go kicking and screaming on council if someone's trying to unilaterally spend it on saving taxes for a 4-year shot when we know inflation's running at 8%, and that will hurt us at a later date. So capital projects and public consultation.
This will be our last question. Candidates will have a full 2 minutes to answer, but again, to keep things brief, I'll only read it once. Dufferin County, and Jeremy, you'll have the first crack at it. Dufferin County is our upper tier government. There are only 30 upper tier governments in Ontario, and there are none in Alberta or Saskatchewan. Do we need to have this additional layer of government oversight and expense? And do you think that the $17 million that Orangeville taxpayers provide to Dufferin County is money well spent?
That's an interesting question about money well spent. I suppose if it's spent on the things that matter to you, it's well spent. And if it's not, then it isn't. One of the things that I want to pursue is, and I'm saying this in a light way, not a heavy way, is currently we have, and I'll get back to the actual question in a second, but we have 7 members of council for a town that isn't really that big. And I would very much like to see us go from a council of 7 down to 5. And this is not something that would happen overnight, but I think we need to have that discussion. We need to have the discussion about how well the County of Dufferin is representing our needs for Orangeville and counts the county as a whole. So I would certainly, if I should be elected as mayor, I would definitely put a motion forward to discuss some of these things. And I'm not saying that things are going to change, but we do need to discuss this. Our present system of government, as far as the structure, has been here for a long time. And frankly, it's time to have that discussion about if we can make improvements, improve the conversation between our residents and the county, because quite frankly, the county gets a bit of a pass as far as some of the decisions they make. I see a much higher level of engagement with Orangeville residents and Orangeville Council than I do for Orangeville residents or county residents and the County of Dufferin. So we do need to have a look at it, in my opinion. Of course, public consultation is going to be a big part of that. Thanks, Doug.
Thank you, Jeremy. Lisa.
Thank you, Doug. One-tier government is something that has been talked about time and time again in Orangeville and in Dufferin County. And it's an interesting concept, but one that residents really need to consider. So there are a few things that the county takes care of for us that if Orangeville were to go out on its own, could be a problem. Social services is run by the county, which includes Ontario Works and housing, and building our own infrastructure within our organization to handle those things could present some big challenges. If it went the other way, that we all amalgamated into one giant Dufferin County as one municipality, we're a very, very diverse municipality within Dufferin County. There is a mix of urban and rural, and the needs of the residents in all of those areas are completely different. Being part of Dufferin County saved us millions of dollars in waste management that at an Orangeville level we would have struggled with. As Dufferin County as a whole, agriculture in Dufferin County is worth over $200 million in economic benefit. I think we're better served if Orangeville thinks differently and embraces the agriculture that surrounds us and tries to find ways to help our agricultural community to thrive. every dollar that's invested in local agriculture generates $2.60 of additional local economic development within Orangeville, Shelburne, other urban municipalities. So I think that Orangeville needs to embrace and learn how to be a better partner to our Dufferin County. And when it comes to the one-tier government, I'm not sure that that's the right way to go. It would be a piece that I would be willing to discuss and to look at, and again, engagement with the public to find out what they think is a great place to start. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Trevor.
Well, I think, just like some others have mentioned, the county needs to have more discussions with residents, not just of a certain area, all residents. They need to get more input from not just Orangeville, not just Shelburne, not just Mono, everyone. And then start to actually work for all residents. I don't find county council, in my view, as accessible as what they need to be. The interaction has been limited, don't get me wrong, because of COVID and so on and so forth. But even before COVID, county council just has not been very approachable by the general public. And it's not just Orangeville residents saying that. I have family members that live in other towns in Dufferin County, and they've had issues, and they've approached their own local councils, but they don't even know, some of them, how to get a hold of Dufferin County Council. I think that's something that the county needs to work on. Orangeville itself is working with the county. I think there are some issues between Dufferin and Orangeville, but I think if they have a much better approach at discussing things instead of the attitude of, well, this is the way it's going to be because we're the county, I think that'll go a long way. Thanks.
Thank you, Trevor. Kim.
Thank you, Doug. I think what we need to do is we need to look at what services the county provides, not only to us, but to our surrounding areas. I've heard time and time again that Orangeville pulls the weight and it's not fair and we should just, break out on our own. But I think we need to look and break down what services the county provides to us. From day to day, we don't think, oh, well, the county pays for our garbage or the county pays for our social services. We just expect that service to be there. We don't know what it costs, most of us, and we don't really want to be concerned. But at the end of the day, as a resident, maybe we need to be concerned. We need to say, look, this is what the county's doing for us. This is how, how much garbage is, per year. This is per resident. And I think we need to break it all down. Then what we need to do is look and see, okay, are we getting our value for the money? No, let's not just break free and say, look, we can do it on our own. We need to say, look, are we prepared, just like we did with OPP, are we prepared to cover these costs? Are we prepared to, financially be able to stand on our own and look and see if that's a possibility? I think without all of the knowledge that it wouldn't even be a consideration. We need to break it all down step by step and then go from there. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, Kim. Todd, over to you.
Thank you, Doug. To me, there's really two issues here. There's one, we're talking about the county, and then there's two, we're talking about politicians. Jeremy brought up the number of politicians. I wouldn't disagree with that statement whatsoever. So we have about 70,000 people in our county, and we've got about 65 politicians. I'm not sure that this is necessary. I think, in all honesty, that's something that we could look at. So push that out of the side, go over to the county. The county, to remove the county as something that we use as an entity in Orangeville will cost us all money. It'll be an absolute disaster if we were to remove that service. The county, by the way, saying they're not accessible, they're just right at the Edelbrock Center. Walk over and knock on the door. These people are there to help and support us. They look after housing, homeownership programs, building permits, garbage, recycling, programs for rent and utility assistance, seniors, tax relief programs, programs, tourism, conservation areas and trails. Like, these are all things that our town does not have the expertise in. And to hire people that would have the expertise in, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. So to be able to do these things, it's just really a non-starter to me. And if those people who are watching at home, what you really want to think about is Orangeville has an advantage over everybody else, and that is we have a disproportionate amount of the votes because of our size. So what we need is someone at this table, someone to be a strong mayor, and someone to be a strong deputy mayor, and make sure that they're aligned. Make sure those two people are going to work well together so that Orangeville gets what they need at this county council meetings, and we are looked after in terms of our needs. I think that's it. I feel like I could go on for 3 minutes here, Doug, on this one, but there's really the two issues, politicians and then the county services, and we just can't afford to give that up.
Thank you, Todd. Jeff, over to you.
Thanks. So I question, it's a great question. It was one that was on the table, as I recall, when my father was mayor back in 1967. The question is still there today, some 55 years later. So in that interim period, it's never bubbled to the surface as a high priority, and frankly, I don't see it as a high priority now. I think it's an interesting discussion. I think clearly there's likely some opportunity for rationalization. And as a participant on the county council, I would certainly want to engage in a conversation as to the justification for the monies that the town of Orangeville is spending, and take that on balance with the services that the county is delivering in part to the residents of the town of Orangeville. But I would add, I think there's many, many other issues facing the town that frankly take priority over that particular matter, as evidenced by the fact that the question's been outstanding for at least 55 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. We'll now move on to our closing statements, and we'll continue with our speaking order. So we will begin with mayoral candidate Lisa Post. Lisa.
Thank you, Doug. Many elections are won or lost due to tax promises. The only thing that people dislike more than taxes is politics. Almost every new to politics candidate wants to promise tax freezes or 0% increases, and of course they do. Those words resonate deeply with residents and voters, all of whom are feeling the impacts of high taxes. And while they're well-intentioned, the short-term thinking is just not sustainable without significant impacts to service levels or depletion of our reserves. So tonight you won't hear me making any promises like that, because with the experience that I have, I know that a solution like this won't actually save taxpayers any money. What I will promise, though, is a steady hand. As mentioned earlier, my track record includes delivering an average of 1% increases, much lower than inflation, without impact to service levels, and while continuing to grow our reserves and moving forward important infrastructure projects. The promise I will make, which is not nearly as flashy, is to be the steady hand who keeps pace with those successes amidst significant global inflationary pressures. I'm not here to make unrealistic promises. I'm here to work with you, the community, town staff, and all levels of government to come up with innovative and affordable solutions. Let's find tangible savings for residents as we move forward. Tax freezes and 0% increase promises aren't long-term solutions and only push the problems to future councils to play catch-up when cost and urgency increases. Short-term thinking leads to long-term problems, not only for residents today, but also for the next generation of taxpayers, which is our children and grandchildren. The recent sale of the railway has added a significant influx to the municipal coffers, and we have an opportunity here to make major impacts in our community. We need to engage the community through public consultation to determine how that money is best spent before dwindling it away on one-time tax relief initiatives. October 24th is your day to act. We need everyone engaged to move us from a commuter town to a community town and build our future together. I ask that you vote Lisa Post for mayor to move our town forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. We'll now hear closing remarks from Deputy Mayoral candidate Trevor Castiglione. Trevor.
Thank you. Well, I'm not going to make promises of freezing taxes or lowering taxes or anything, because it's not realistic, especially in these times. Orangeville's at a critical time, and we need people on council that are going to sit here and fight for what the people of Orangeville want, not their own personal agendas, not their own egos, but what the people of Orangeville want, what the people of Orangeville need. Not huge tax increases of 5 and 6% in a couple years, because we are at zero taxes this year. To me, being passionate about what you're trying to do for the town is a very important part of it. And I'm very passionate about this town and have been since I've lived here over 40 years. To me, when people go to vote on October 24th, they need to look at, are they going to have someone on council that isn't afraid to make hard decisions, that isn't afraid to speak up and speak their mind for all the people, not just a few privileged, all people, no matter what the circumstances may be, that they'll stand up, they'll speak all information out there for all people. Thank you.
Thank you, Trevor. We'll now hear closing remarks from mayoral candidate Kim Reed. Kim.
Thank you, Doug. If you know me, you know that I don't make promises that I can't keep. If I say I'm going to be there, I'm going to be there. If I say there's a problem, we can't do this today, I'm going to find ways to make sure that tomorrow, let's find a way to make things work. Let's find out all the pros and the cons together. We need to, as a community, work together, find out pros, cons, and what needs to be addressed most importantly. As politicians, we can all decide for you and say, this is our priority, this is what we think is important, but I think we need to listen to you, the voters. So on October 24th, please vote for me, Kim Reed.
Thank you, Kim. We'll now hear closing remarks from Deputy Mayoral candidate Todd Taylor.
Thank you, Doug. So Orangeville, I want everybody to know this is in a lot of ways about an election of personal style. And my personal style is I don't fight. I don't fight with others. I try my best to collaborate. I try my best to get along and find a decision that works out well for all parties. I do make hard decisions. One of the hardest decisions I made this past term was voting against my council mates in the OPS-OPP debate. I did so because I had conviction that that was the right thing to do. And I still think it was the right thing to do today. Nonetheless, my plan is to make sure that I'm continuing to think for myself based on the facts that we have at hand. A little bit about me, I guess, just to make sure that people understand what it is that we're voting for. I've volunteered in our community for years. And if the community decides that the residents don't want to elect me, I'm fine with that. I won't go away though. I'll continue to volunteer in our community. I will be involved in the Optimist Club because it's important to me. I'll still do my things in Christmas in the Park. I'll still be contributing to Theatre Orangeville. I guess I want people to know that I don't need this role on council. I want this role on council. I've worked hard. I've proven that by my community actions with people. I've learned much about how the municipality works, and I know how to get things done. My plan is to be accessible to the public. I like it when people contact me for help with an issue. I like solving problems and helping others. The role of deputy mayor is not a game. It's a job. It's an important job that requires a specific set of skills. And I want the residents to know that I'm all in. I believe I have these skills, and I'm here to serve. And hopefully, at the end of October, you'll vote for me for deputy mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. We'll now hear closing remarks from mayoral candidate Jeff Patterson.
Thank you very much. Well, no hollow promises here. I wouldn't be talking about freezing taxes, giving all of us a break, given what's gone on with impending inflation, already there in many cases. No hollow promises here. What I've done is identify the sources of funding to be able to keep the taxation where it is. The reduction in the cost of policing, the reduction in the payment of taxes to other municipalities emanating from the sale of the rail lands, using that portion of the proceeds of the sale of the rail lands that represents a return to the taxpayers of Orangeville, all those taxes that were paid to other municipalities by the taxpayers of Orangeville during the years that that land was owned. So we have the source of funds to direct in that regard. The balance of the sale proceeds of the rail lands can be used certainly for infrastructure projects, starting with the most critical. If you want strong governance, I've been on boards of directors of companies listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange. I know what governance is all about. No false promises here about taxation. Where it will break down is if I am stymied by others on council that won't see my position. But that is my agenda, that's my platform, and I also want to deliver better services to seniors. Also a significant part of my platform. So on October 24, vote Patterson for a better future. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. We'll now hear closing remarks from mayoral candidate Jeremy Williams.
Well, thank you very much, Doug. And before I go any further, I just want to say I've been in many elections. I don't know that I've ever been in an election like this one where there's as many good people running for office, and I mean that sincerely. And I would welcome the opportunity to work with any of them. I know that sometimes I rub people the wrong way. I'm not stupid, but I'm a passionate person, and I don't think that anyone would disagree with my conviction that this is an amazing town. Orangeville is among the best towns of any town I've seen, and I mean that sincerely. We have so many advantages, and I was drawn to this town when I was very young. Basically made my parents move here as a kid, true story, and I've never looked back. So I don't hear a lot of promises, at least not in the term of a promise, but I will promise something. And I promise that I will continue to hold Orangeville as my priority. And that will be, as long as I live, I'm sure, that this is my home. This is where my family was raised. My children were born. My mother lives. And, I think that should mean something to people. I've had 4 years off Orangeville. Thank you for electing me as councillor. Thank you for electing me as mayor. We did do some great things together. And thank you for the 4 years off. I enjoyed my time with my family and taking a bit of a break. Please, I hope you will vote for me. I think I'm the right person for the job. And I do look forward to working with others on council, whoever is elected. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you, Jeremy. I want to thank all of the candidates tonight for their deportment and the many divergent ideas that they presented. Orangeville residents have some wonderful, varied options to choose from. Thank you again to our partners, the Brampton Real Estate Board of Trade and Rogers TV Dufferin-Caledon. There is quite a bit of work that goes on behind the scenes, and I don't help with any of that, to make this event like tonight's happen. We'd like to give a big thanks to Rogers TV staff producer director Todd Collison and Rogers TV staff producer Patrick Quigley, as well as Dufferin Board of Trade executive director Diana Morris. As a reminder, candidate bios and information can be found on our website, www.dufferinbot.ca. So all these folks have done their job now and presented their platforms. It's up to you, Orangeville residents, to get out and vote on October the 24th. Thank you and good night.
call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
Hey, I'm Chef Corey Dern.